In the headlines of this hour on VTV News, Prime Minister hosts red carpet welcome ceremony for his Spanish counterpart. And later on, U.S. reciprocal tariffs officially take effect. Vietnam Air Force rehearses flag flight for reunification anniversary.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello, it's 3 p.m. local time and you're watching VTV News. I'm Huyên Trân with the top stories. Party General Secretary To Lam met with esteemed veterans, former youth volunteers, and militia and self-defense force members who participated in the resistance war on Wednesday morning. The meeting coincides with preparations to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the liberation of southern region of Vietnam and the country's reunification on April 30th. The party chief expressed the nation's deep gratitude for these individuals' immense contributions. And looking ahead, the party general secretary announced a goal that by 2030, all individuals with meritorious service and their families should achieve a good or higher standard of living. Their financial support will be registered at the highest level within the party and state's social policy system. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính hosted a formal welcoming ceremony at the presidential palace on Wednesday morning for his Spanish counterpart Pedro Sanchez, who is on an official visit to Vietnam. And this historic visit marks the first time a Spanish prime minister has visited Vietnam since the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries in 1977. During their meeting, the leaders discussed major areas of cooperation to strengthen their bilateral relationship. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính also shared Vietnam's strategies for addressing global challenges, including promoting negotiations, adopting flexible measures to diversify markets, and transitioning toward a green and sustainable economy. Now turning to the latest updates in business and economy, U.S. reciprocal tariffs officially took effect at 11:01 a.m. Wednesday, Vietnam time. And these tariffs place significant economic pressure on affected nations, potentially triggering a trade war through retaliatory measures, a situation that would disadvantage both the U.S. and its trading partners. Nevertheless, the White House maintains openness to negotiations regarding the tariff rates.
The U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency announced that goods from 86 countries and territories will face tariffs ranging from 11% to 50%, with China facing an exceptional 104% tariff. Products containing at least 20% U.S.-originated value will be exempt from these reciprocal tariffs. The door to negotiations remains open, with 70 trading partners seeking discussions with the U.S. The White House confirmed that U.S. President Donald Trump met with his trade advisors on April 8th to discuss potential agreements with each trading partner.
Well, we're not looking at that. We have many countries that are coming to negotiate deals with us, and they're going to be fair deals, and in certain cases they're going to be paying substantial tariffs. They'll be fair deals.
U.S. President Donald Trump expressed his belief that China seeks a tariff agreement with the United States. However, the 104% tariff on Chinese goods will remain until such an agreement is reached. In addition to the reciprocal tariffs on individual countries, Trump also indicated that he will introduce new tariffs on pharmaceutical imports.
Most major indexes in Asia-Pacific markets declined, led by Japan's Nikkei 225, which fell more than 3%. Stock exchanges in Hong Kong, China, South Korea, and Australia also lost more than 1%. The Shanghai Composite Index of the Shanghai Stock Exchange stood as the sole gainer, buoyed by market support measures from Chinese authorities. In the U.S., markets experienced volatility during the previous session amid uncertain trade negotiation signals. And despite opening higher at the beginning of the session, all three major U.S. indexes closed lower. The Nasdaq saw the steepest decline at over 2%, while the S&P 500 dipped below 5,000 points for the first time in nearly a year. And facing new U.S. tariffs, the American Chamber of Commerce in Vietnam, or AmCham, has proposed several measures to balance interests between the two countries. AmCham Vietnam urges the U.S. to clarify its request and pursue negotiations rather than trade retaliation. Meanwhile, the Dong Nai Association of Livestock has suggested reducing interest rates for the GSM 102 program, which supports U.S. agricultural trade. And this proposal aims to boost U.S. imports and help achieve trade balance. Additionally, tariffs on products like corn and soybean meal have been eliminated, potentially lowering costs for Vietnam's livestock industry. And in a closer look at the issue, according to the Ministry of Agriculture and Environment report, the U.S. is currently the second largest export market, accounting for more than 20% of Vietnam's total agricultural, forestry, and fishery export turnover. Therefore, the U.S. announcement of a 46% reciprocal tax rate on Vietnamese goods has raised many concerns for domestic agricultural export businesses. Many solutions are proposed to cope with this situation.
This enterprise exports about 10,000 tons of honey annually, mainly to the U.S. market. News of the U.S. imposing a 46% reciprocal tariff on some Vietnamese products forces the enterprise to consider other options.
60% of our products are exported to the U.S. After the tax imposition, we had to find other markets and focus more on the domestic market.
Although the coffee industry has the advantage of not being on the list of products subject to reciprocal tariffs, in order to export sustainably, this enterprise has chosen to focus on deep processing and diversifying markets to avoid dependence.
We must convince U.S. partners that our products are 100% made in Vietnam. At the same time, we also have to find ways to diversify the market.
We will look for other export markets. However, with the U.S. market, which is Vietnam's main market, we need time to adapt to the changes.
According to industry associations, although the reciprocal tariff rate is 46%, it is applied differently to each industry. Therefore, to find a response, businesses need a more specific analysis and assessment of the tax schedule that will be applied to each Vietnamese agricultural, forestry, and fishery product when exported to the United States. For now, agricultural export enterprises are temporarily pausing new orders for the U.S. market to avoid risks.
Vietnamese cocoa ranks among the world's rare premium varieties. Once considered a secondary crop, cocoa is now establishing its place in Vietnam thanks to both favorable climate and soil conditions and strengthened partnerships between farmers and businesses.
In the major cocoa-growing province of Dak Lak, farmers are entering harvest season. Unlike past practices, harvesting now follows strict technical guidelines. Workers must cut the fruits with specialized tools rather than pulling them by hand, preventing damage to the trees. The pods are shelled within 24 hours and fermented according to company standards.
Fermented cocoa beans that meet company standards are currently purchased at around $10 per kilogram, providing farmers with higher incomes.
Many cooperatives and domestic businesses have invested in advanced processing. Made in Vietnam, chocolate products are now present in more than 20 countries. At this processing facility, production lines operate almost non-stop. Only properly fermented and dried beans are selected for production.
Product quality is top priority. We use all quality standards and certifications to promote Vietnamese cocoa abroad, hoping our products can reach global markets.
Vietnam has a competitive advantage in being able to grow its own cocoa, unlike leading chocolate producers such as Belgium and Switzerland. From modest riverbank gardens along the Mekong, Vietnamese cocoa is steadily building a sustainable and promising presence in the global market.
And looking at the bigger picture, Vietnam's economy maintained good growth in the first quarter of 2025 at 6.93%, surpassing figures from the same period over the past 5 years. Key economic sectors show substantial improvement, which has reinforced confidence among businesses.
In its latest macroeconomic update about Vietnam, Standard Chartered said that strong integration and continued FDI supported Vietnam's economy in the first quarter of this year. Meanwhile, the manufacturing sector showed recovery, with the PMI index surpassing the 50.0-point threshold for the first time in 4 months, indicating a rebound in new orders, according to S&P Global.
The Vietnamese manufacturing sector kicked into gear in March, seeing the first increases in output and new orders in 2025 so far. Firms will hopefully be able to build on these improvements in the months ahead.
Vietnam's exports continue to grow in the first quarter, fueled by a recovery in new orders. Standard Chartered forecasts a monthly trade surplus of $3.7 billion. Additionally, foreign direct investment, FDI, saw strong growth, with registered capital reaching nearly $11 billion, up 34.7% year-on-year.
According to a JETO survey, Japanese companies pointed out several advantages of the investment environment in Vietnam, such as market size and growth potential, low labor cost, and stable political and social conditions, which are rated higher than ASEAN average. The stable political and social conditions are due to the effort of the Vietnamese government, and Vietnam's stability stands out, especially amid current global tensions.
Eurocham's recent business confidence index shows EU businesses' optimism in Vietnam's business climate with 64.6 points in the first quarter, despite global uncertainties. In addition, domestic consumption continued to be the country's key economic driver, contributing 60% to Vietnam's GDP, according to Fiber 2 Fashion.
We track consumer confidence in Vietnam, and we can actually see at the beginning of the year we've seen a small dip, so it's not necessarily improving. On the other hand, we see a quite okay development in terms of Vietnamese willingness to spend, but we see that people are getting slowly more and more confident in spending.
Although inflation is still under control, Standard Chartered warned that persistent inflationary pressures could challenge Vietnam's monetary policies, suggesting that Vietnam consider flexible monetary policies amid trade risks.
And before moving on to some other news, let's take a look at the foreign exchange rate for today, April 9th. Coming up next on VTV News. Vietnamese rescue team completes mission in Myanmar. And border guard leads literacy class for ethnic women in Thanh Hóa. We return with updates on the situation in Myanmar. The rescue team from Vietnam's Ministry of Public Security and Ministry of National Defense returned home safely on Tuesday night after completing their mission of supporting earthquake relief efforts in Myanmar. During their 10-day deployment, officers and soldiers provided medical examinations, first aid, and medicine to injured victims. The delegation also handed over 2 batches of relief goods, including dry food, tents, personal protective equipment, milk, and many other relief items. In our local news, Hanoi has recently expanded its network of online public service support agencies to make essential administrative procedures more accessible and efficient for residents. The city has opened nearly 500 new outlets that offer free assistance, with 31 essential administrative services through digital platforms. This initiative aims to reduce congestions at administrative centers while also improving the quality of online public services.
Rather than shopping for electronics, Dat Nguyen, a resident of Dong Da district, visited a nearby store to get help renewing his driver's license through the online service. In the past month, The store has helped approximately 300 people with similar requests.
The staff are highly skilled in navigating digital procedures. I'm very satisfied.
Most of the public service support requests we handle are for the driver's license renewals and business registration.
Residents can now seek assistance at Vinaphone agencies, VN Post and Viettel Post offices, eliminating the need to travel long distances to administrative centers.
Being able to access public services so close to home is a huge convenience. It saves costs and time.
To support telecom and postal staff in the new role, an online team now provides real-time assistance.
When we first started offering public services, it was quite unfamiliar. But with the online support team, we can chat with our customers immediately while assisting them at the counter.
Residents who visit these centers will continue receiving free assistance and can opt for home delivery of their administrative documents.
Cao Bang Province on Tuesday held a ceremony to receive over $5 million in support from the Ministry of Public Security and launch a 180-day peak period to rid the province of temporary and dilapidated houses. Currently, 1,959 houses have been built. 1,714 are under construction, and construction of the remaining 3,412 houses will start before May 19. All will be completed before September 30th, 2025. The housing program also presented 20 gifts to families eligible for support. Ta Kom, one of the most remote and impoverished villages in Mường Lát district, Thanh Hóa province, was connected to the national power grid just 2 years ago. Now the village is further illuminated by solar power streetlights, a meaningful project jointly implemented by the Thanh Hóa border guards and donors.
Solar-powered streetlights now stretch 5 kilometers along Ta Kom's most populated road. What was once a treacherous rocky path clinging to the mountainside has become safer to navigate after dark. For highland teachers like Sung Anu, who travel far from home to teach, these lights serve as a bridge to family.
With the new streetlights, I can go home 2 to 3 times a week.
The lighting not only makes travel easier, but also helps eliminate dark corners where drug trafficking once thrived. Last year, authorities dismantled a major drug ring along the Vietnam-Laos border, seizing 24,000 meth pills.
The lighting facilitates patrols and better control of people and vehicles. Before, I often stumble while walking. Now, with streetlights, it's much easier.
I used to be too scared to go out at night. Now, with the lights, I'm not afraid anymore.
With the lights on, thieves no longer dare to enter the village.
Since the installation of streetlights, Ta Kom has experienced a renewed vitality. Children now gather at the village cultural house to play football and enjoy outdoor activities late into the night, activities that were impossible just 2 months ago.
After finishing homework, I get to play football with my friends.
These solar-powered lights do more than brighten roads. They kindle hope for a more promising future in these remote borderlands.
Also in Thanh Hóa province, there is a special class organized by the border guard in coordination with the local authority to teach women in remote border areas. This class is held every evening, allowing women to attend after their day's work in the fields. More to follow.
Vang Thị Mai's spelling attempts at nearly 60 years old make the whole class burst into laughter. Behind their laughter lay deep admiration for her, not only the oldest student, but also one who has never missed a single class.
When I was young, my family was poor, so I couldn't go to school. Now the authorities have opened a literacy class. I try to learn more letters to write my own name.
Thao Thị Sang is the youngest student in the class. Though her house is the farthest from the school, she always arrives very early.
I never had the chance to go to school as a child. Now, I want to learn how to read and write so I can apply for work outside farming.
Previously illiterate and speaking only Hmong, these women never had the opportunity to attend school. Now their dream of learning to read and write has finally become reality.
Literacy classes help women better understand government policies and laws.
The teachers are officers and soldiers of the border guard. They are deeply dedicated to their teaching.
Since attending the class, participants have developed better awareness of various issues. The children are now also receiving proper education.
The class has nearly 100 students and run for 4 months. Here, the joy comes not from the perfect scores or certificates of merit, but from students writing their names or crafting a perfect word on a blank page for the first time.
Coming up next on VTV News. UN Security Council meets on Ukraine. And Vietnam Air Force rehearses flag flight for reunification anniversary. Now turning our attention overseas, the United Nations or UN Security Council met on Tuesday to hear reports on the latest developments in the Ukraine conflict. During the session, a UN representative urged the international community to do more to protect civilians in war zones. UN emphasized that all parties involved must safeguard civilians and civilian infrastructure as required by international humanitarian law. UN estimates indicate that the fighting has displaced 3.7 million Ukrainian properties, while nearly 7 million people now reside in refugee camps. Meanwhile, despite urgent needs, the UN's $2.6 billion humanitarian aid plan has received only 17% of the required funding. Oil prices settled down more than $1 a barrel on Tuesday, hitting a 4-year low as investors factored in rising recession risks due to the U.S. new tariffs. U.S. crude oil closed at $59.58 per barrel, the lowest level since April 2021, while global benchmark Brent settled at $62.82 per barrel. The two benchmarks have slumped by 16% since U.S. President Donald Trump's April 2nd announcement of tariffs on all U.S. imports. According to J.P. Morgan, the U.S. administration has indicated a strong preference for reducing crude prices to $50 or lower as a key objective. Now, after a long period of stagnation, the number of Russian tourists choosing Vietnam as a vacation destination has begun to increase in recent months. The resumption of many direct flights has helped Vietnam attract more Russian visitors. Statistics show that group tours to Vietnam rose by 9% from January to February, followed by a 5% increase in March, with Russian tours showing particularly a strong growth.
Several Russian airlines currently operate direct flights between Russian City and Vietnam, running 2 to 3 times per week. Direct flights between Hanoi and Moscow are expected to resume on May the 8th.
Vietnam has become a favorite destination for Russian tourists, with bookings showing a steady increase recently. In addition to Nha Trang and Phu Quoc, Russian tourists also love go to Phan Thiết, Mũi Né, Ho Chi Minh City, and Hanoi. Currently, the average price of a 7-day tour to Vietnam is about $1,500 US.
Beyond its beautiful natural landscapes, Vietnam attracts Russian tourists with its good infrastructure, affordable prices, diverse cuisine, and wide range of tourism offerings.
I have been to Vietnam twice. I'm very impressed because Vietnam has wonderful nature, beautiful beaches, and delicious food.
Marketing also plays a key role in shaping Russian travel destination choices.
I have heard that Vietnam has beautiful beaches, friendly and hospitable people, and delicious food. Everything is cheap. I hope to have the opportunity to visit Vietnam in the near future.
Vietnam has many opportunities to attract a large influx of Russian tourists. The country needs to modernize its infrastructure, improve services, and diversify tourism offerings, not only to attract foreign tourists, particularly from Russia, but also to maintain their interest in returning.
In preparation for the 50th anniversary of the liberation of the South and National Reunification Day, the Vietnam Air Force conducted a rehearsal involving numerous helicopters practicing a flag-raising maneuver in Bien Hoa, Dong Nai on Wednesday morning. The event marked the first time such a large number of fighter aircraft appear in Ho Chi Minh City's airspace. The helicopter squadron practiced in a 3-4-3 formation, while the Yak 130 squadron maintained a 3-3 formation. All aircraft kept a consistent altitude of 300 meters. Ground forces coordinated closely with the flight path alignment to ensure synchronization with the parade activities scheduled for April 30th. Vietnam's railway sector is also preparing a special tribute for the upcoming 50th anniversary of the liberation of the South on April 30th. Two specially designed reunification trains will operate for the occasion. Train SE1 will depart from Hanoi Station on the evening of April 29th, while its counterpart, train SE4, will leave from Saigon Station on the same day. The trains are scheduled to meet at noon on April 30th in Da Nang, where passengers will receive surprise gifts during the train ceremony farewell. Vietnam Railways is offering a 40% discount on tickets for individuals with meritorious services from April 24th through May 9th. And each booked ticket will display the iconic red flag with a yellow star on the online system, creating an image of a unified train. Additional trains will also run on key routes for this commemoration. And as usual, let's take a look at the weather forecast. And that's all the news we have for this hour. To rewatch our program, you can download our mobile app VTVgo or check out our YouTube channel VTV4Go. Thank you for watching and see you next time.